Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maddie and I am going to be telling you guys all the books I read in June. I read 7 books in June. This is a little bit lower than my typical average, I feel like, but I still feel like it was a really good month based on how busy I was. Brock and I were in Nashville and Arizona and like basically 2 weeks full of traveling. So I think 7 books was realistic. I am going to be talking about all 7 books from lowest to highest ranking. So like 2 stars, 5 stars, but let's get going. I actually have never done this in a wrap up before, but I post it on my Bookstagram all the time. I post my monthly wrap up and statistics for that month. So in June, I did read 7 books. I read 3,047 pages in June. I read 2 physical books, 3 Kindle Unlimited books, if you count those as physical, it was on my Kindle, whatever, and 2 audiobooks. Let's start with the lowest rated book that I read this month. It was a bad one. 2 stars. It was The Coven by Harper L. Woods. And I read this book because my husband Brock chose it in this video. My husband chooses my TBR. And although I disliked the book very much, I'm glad that I read it so I can kind of give my opinion on it so you guys don't have to read it. Now, if you've read this book and you liked it, then I'm sorry that I'm shitting on a book that you liked. But I found no value in this book whatsoever. Our main character, I believe her name is Willow, she is a witch and her mother was also a witch, and her mother ran away from her coven at a pretty young age and came Willow, okay? Because her mother ran away, now she's like stuck with her mother's consequences, so she ends up getting dragged back to this coven, this university of witches, and the headmaster there, his name is Gray. He's a creep. He was a big creep. Like, one of the scenes in this book, she was sleeping and he like snuck into her like dorm room because he had a key because he's like the headmaster, and he like removed her clothing while she was sleeping, and that was like it. It was just violating. I don't know. This whole book, it was very quick, so it was a fast-paced erotic book, and I was expecting more plot. It was like 290 pages, I think, like really quick. I finished it in one day. An easy read, but just not a good read. Like, the quality of writing wasn't there, and I feel like I've read so many other trashy erotic books that are better. There is some kind of like mystery going on campus that they're all trying to solve, or just not a good book. That's why I gave it 2 stars. Getting to the next category, we're going to 3 stars. I had a few 3 stars this month. It was a pretty like average month, but I had some really good ones too, so we'll get to those in a second. The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I've read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna and The Four Winds. I loved The Nightingale. I gave that 5 stars, like absolutely loved it. It was amazing. I love World War II setting. This book was 1930 in Texas, America, like Dust Bowl era. I genuinely, I'm just gonna be honest, I thought it was a little boring. When a book is that long and you're like listening and I'm like getting all of the character voices, and I still felt a deep connection for these characters. I still really liked the characters. I thought some of them were pretty mundane, but I think that in this time period, the whole like living in Texas and having that like simple farm life and trying to just survive because of how dusty and disease that you could get, it was just a little like mundane. But because I'm spending all of this time like getting to know the characters and watching the character development, and you still kind of get attached. That's why I still really enjoyed this book. It just wasn't my favorite from Kristen Hanna. And again, I've only read 2 books from her, so I don't have much to compare it to. The end did make me cry a lot. It was very sad. But I think when, again, you're spending that much time with characters, you do kind of form some sort of attachment, even if you aren't like head over heels for them. The next 3-star book that I had was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, and this book I also read in this vlog with Brock. He chose this one off of my TBR cart. The Dead Romantics was a really unique romance. Like, if you're looking for, it's not contemporary. There's a little bit of like paranormal activity in this for sure. So we have Florence, who is our main character. She is a ghostwriter for an author. Florence also can happen to see ghosts. So she's a ghost writer who writes books for an author, but she also grew up in like a funeral home. Her parents owned a funeral home, and she's always been able to speak and like see ghosts. And as a ghostwriter, she gets a new editor, is the main love interest. And I don't want to like spoil anything. I think this book has a really unique unique way of creating the relationship development. It was just super, super fun, fast-paced, cute, and a little lighthearted. There was a lot of talk about death, so if like trigger warnings, you know, there's a lot of talk about grief. I mean, she literally grew up in a funeral home. There's a lot of talk about dead people. I would say also it kind of reminds me of those romance books where the romance is the subplot and the main plot is like Florence trying to figure out her life. Like, she's a little bit of a mess. So I definitely recommend this book. The only reason I gave it 3 stars is it's just not my cup of tea. I don't really find enjoyment in like paranormal kind of things, but it was still a really cute, lighthearted book. It just wasn't like top tier. The next book I gave 3.5 stars. I just finished this actually like 2 days ago, and it was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This has been sitting on my TBR for a really long time. The audiobook became available on Libby, so I listened to this like on the plane a little bit because I was flying frequently in June, but I also physically read it, so I wasn't just listening. It was like a half and half. This book was odd. 50% of the book, I was a little confused. And the other 50%, I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, such a good dark academia book. Our main character, Galaxy, she goes by Alex. Alex goes to Yale, but she shouldn't be a Yale student. Like, she's not very academically smart. She wasn't meant to go to Yale, but Alex can see ghosts. Kind of like the Dead Romantics, honestly. And Yale notices this and kind of like brings her on to these secret societies at Yale, and like, you're gonna become a student, but you're gonna be in this secret society to help us look at dead people. I don't really see, this is where it kind of gets a little foggy. I don't really know what she was supposed to be doing at Yale, but Yale just like recruited her because she could see ghosts. It's a modern fantasy. It's new adult. It's obviously a lot of like paranormal, like ghosts and demons and dual POV, which is a big plus, but it's mainly a murder mystery thriller. Like, there's a big murder on campus, and Alex had been in an accident like similar to this murder. She feels like this big connection to the case, so she kind of like hops in. She's like, how can I solve this murder? It was worth the hype. Like, I've seen a lot of hype around this book. I don't know how quickly I will pick up the second book. It was just like, it was good. It just wasn't great. I feel like I should have read this maybe in the fall. Like, if you're looking for more that dark academia, the feelings that this book gives, fall, winter would be best. I don't think reading this in the summer really set the mood for what this book was. My only 4-star of the month, actually, Flawless by Elsie Silver. I read this book in this vlog right here, my travel reading vlog. Let me just go over some of the tropes that were used in this book. I feel like everyone is looking for tropes and like wants to know what the book is about based off the tropes. I would like consider it a sports romance, kind of. Cowboy romance, obviously. Enemies to lovers, I use that very loosely because enemies is very hard to say in a romance book. Like, no one is truly an enemy. Okay. No one is truly an enemy. Okay, thank you. There's a little bit of forced proximity. It's dual POV, but I did read this on my Kindle because I was traveling, and my Kindle is just my saving grace. I love my Kindle. Flawless is about Rhett and Summer. I have heard so much about the Chestnut Springs series. Like, this series gets a lot of hype on Book Talk and Bookstagram, everywhere. This book specifically, Summer is a part of her dad's company. He runs this like agency for, let's say, celebrities or athletes, okay? And Rhett is a bull rider, a professional bull rider. He's an athlete and he has a big reputation to uphold. This is a very common trope, actually, to where the girl is sent to fix the boy's reputation, right? So Summer's dad is like, hey, I'm gonna basically make you Rhett's babysitter. So Summer moves in with Rhett. She moves in. That's where the forced proximity comes in. And obviously from there, they like slowly bond a relationship. She goes on like trips with him to these bull riding things, and Rhett needs the babysitter because he has a bad reputation. Obviously, he's not a bad guy. That's what we kind of find out throughout the book. He's just not a bad guy at all. He's actually perfect. And Summer finds that out. The only reason I gave this 4 stars is because I see this trope, I feel like, everywhere, to where the girl is sent to fix the boy's reputation. And although like it's a great trope and I really clung to this kind of plot line, I think that the cowboy plot line and like bull rider thing was so, I loved loved being in that kind of setting. I see this everywhere. For example, I feel like Liz Tom Ford, I'm gonna mention this again, Liz Tom Ford, The Right Move and Mile High, these two books right here, they're a little bit similar, but a little bit better, in my opinion. I liked Liz Tom Ford's writing a lot better, but don't come at me, Elsie Silver lovers, because I do like this book. I genuinely do. I just think that it's an overused trope, and I'm kind of tired of it. Like, okay, we get it. The girl is like this type A, like gonna organize this man's life, and she does. But I was like, okay, I've seen it before. That's just me being honest. Now, getting to the 5-star category, Heartless by Elsie Silver. This one, she crushed. She made it so worth my while, so wonderful. A little bit similar tropes to other books that I've read, but I still like this book stole my heart. Heartless, and it stole my heart. That's funny. This book is about Cade and Willa. Now, can we just pause for a second before I tell you anything else? Willa is my new girl crush. Willa is who I strive to be. I want to be like Willa. She was incredible. Forget Cade. Forget Cade. I want Willa. She made this book for me. I read this on Kindle, again on vacation. It's in this vlog. It's, again, a cowboy romance. Cade is a single dad. It's grumpy sunshine for sure. There's a lot of mutual pining, like a lot of mutual pining. It's dual POV, and it's like a nanny situation. So Willa comes in to Cade and Luke's life. Luke is Cade's son, who he had with his ex-wife, who is no longer in the picture. Let's just say that. Willa steps in. She kind of needs like a summer job. So Willa and Summer from Flawless are best friends. So they're all kind of connected in some way, which is really nice. And Cade is like, no, you are not the nanny I'm looking for. Like their first interaction was a little sexual, and he was like, no, like you're not gonna be my son's nanny. And of course, Luke, the son, falls in love with Willa, and Cade is like, fine, because my son loves you, like you can stay for the summer. I typically don't like when there's kids in books. I think that authors can write kids in a very cringy, overly enthusiastic kind of way, and I'm like, most kids aren't like that. But Luke was like, in this book there's a lot between Willa and Luke, like a lot of that relationship development, and like her as a nanny, and I saw the relationship in it where it wasn't like too cringy. Honestly, the slow burn of this one was intense. Like Cade really struggled, and it's nice because you have his POV. Cade really struggled to like Willa. You know, he kind of always liked her, and you see that in his POV, but he never admitted it. Like, he was always kind of a dick to her, and it kind of got old sometimes. I was like, Cade, can you be a little nicer to her? Because she's literally an angel. She's perfect. The conflict at the end, I did not see coming. Did not think that this was how it was gonna be, but I loved it. I loved how it played out. Flawless was spicy too, but this one was spicy in a different way because of the tension. Like, there was constant tension because Cade was so physically attracted to her at first. Oh my god, it was so good. I hope that the other books are just as good. I'm really interested to see Beau's book. One more 5-star, and this is gonna be an easy one, and y'all are gonna hate me because it's talked about so much. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I have the like sleeve of the physical copy because my neighbor is borrowing the actual physical copy, so I'll get that back ASAP. Can we just appreciate the queen, Rebecca Yarros, for publishing this book, because it's exactly what we needed after Sarah J Maas's like 2-year hiatus. Like, I'm tired of waiting for another Jennifer Armentrout or Sarah J Maas book to give me the same feeling that Fourth Wing also gave me. I also read it in this vlog right here. It's a whole reading vlog of me reading this book. This book has dragons, forbidden romance, enemies to lovers, dark academia-ish. I'm gonna reread this one when the second one comes out in November. I already pre-ordered the second one. I think I accidentally pre-ordered it twice, so I might do a giveaway, so look out for my Bookstagram if you want. Sometimes I do that by accident. I like pre-order 2 books, and then I like don't want to cancel one, so then I'm like, oh, just give it away. We all know what this book is about. I feel like every subscriber and friend has read it, so I'm not necessarily going to talk about the summary. It definitely gave me that same feeling that I get when I read other romantasy books. Like, I've needed it so bad. That is it for June. Honestly, Fourth Wing, y'all don't need a summary. Like, I'm not gonna tell you what it's about. Just go read it. I feel like I did good. I did. I think that obviously I had more 3 stars than anything, and I had like a 2-star. It was a wide range of ratings, but I think I did good. All of my social media is linked down below if you want to follow me on Bookstagram, Instagram, Goodreads. Comment below your favorite book that you read in June, and then we can talk about it, because I'm always looking for recommendations and, you know, people to talk about our favorite books with. So see you guys in the next video.